If you're going to take a clean sheet of paper, and if you're a man from Mars coming beep, 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 beep into whatever town you're in, and you were going to design how to sell a car.
Chip Perry, it is good to be in the same Zoom room with you again. It's been a while, but thank you so much for giving some of your time today to me and the Dealers Pushing Back audience.
Thank you, Paul. I'm always thrilled to be on your show. I'm very impressed with the work you do, and I love being part of your following.
Oh, man, that's great. It takes a village. Let's get into it. I would love to get your just perspective. You've been in the business for so long, Yellow Pay or Trader, and then, TrueCar, and now A2Z Sync. So you've really been across the whole gamut of marketing, advertising, dealer relationships, now internal operations. From your experience and perspective, what do you think like the top 3 challenges facing dealers right now are?
Well, I do have the benefit of now 25 years of working with car dealers. And I think that the industry's reached the stage where the customer experience is the big thing. Everyone's pointing at it. The disruptors, what I call the barbarians at the gate, are attacking it, making fun of it, lampooning it. And I think many dealers are starting to become introspective about what it takes to really change. And so when the chance to come to work at A2Z appeared on my radar screen last year, I jumped at it, because even though I've been hanging around dealerships on the marketing side of their businesses for a long time, I've been listening to customers for many years talk about the experience of what it's like buying a car at many dealerships. Mm-hmm. And the perceptions aren't good, unfortunately. Despite the best efforts of many great car dealers, the general perception of the car buying public is not positive. But it's fixable. And I've seen examples of it here in Denver and around the country, A2Z's clients who have employed this one-person system for selling cars. And it simplifies it, streamlines it, makes it less stressful, more transparent, and it fixes almost all the ills that people generally criticize. So I wanted to become part of that movement and try to finish my career on a high note, working with a company that is scaling, young, has got a lot of passionate, talented people, and a wonderful system that really hasn't had much visibility yet in the automotive retail. So that's why I'm here.
So dealer, yeah, I didn't think about this until you said it. So like, especially with TrueCar, you heard a lot from the retail customer, right? So you were really kind of like holding both ends of this rope, right? And trying to connect them together. How do you think perceptions have changed? I mean, dealers have been working and looking at this problem for, I would say, a solid 24 months, like really since Carvana started getting kind of more aggressive in their approach. There have been so many dealers that have really leaned in on this customer experience thing. Do you feel like we're making progress? Obviously, we have a long way to go, but what do you think the progress has been? Like, what are the dealers doing who are making progress? What are the things that they are doing that shows, the consumer that they're actually moving forward?
I think it's been a very positive thing that dealers have provided more information on their websites about car deals available at their stores through all these digital retailing tools over the last 2 or 3 years. It's gathered momentum. I actually started doing this 12 years ago at AutoTrader when we helped. We had a small partnership with DealerTrack where we helped dealers post monthly payments on their listings that were credit quality based with a little payment widget. And the reason why we did it back then was we were listening to customers tell us they wanted more transparency about what the deal would be before they visit the store, not just the car and the price that was typically visible through classified listings. So customers
to clarify, you just sorry to interrupt you, but to clarify, you're saying what the deal would be. So not like you can buy this car for this much money. It's like, this is your monthly payment, right? This is going to be a sample of like what your life is going to look like in this car.
It's not a new phenomenon that consumers want this. Back in 15 years ago, our consumer research at autotrader.com, where I was very fortunate to be able to lead that company for 16 years, we were unearthing then the desire on the part of consumers to understand more about the deal. That's why in 08 and 09, we started to enable these experiments by dealers on our website. So the industry's come a long way since then. And it was great to see many more dealers adopt this. Back then, 12 years ago, I got a stiff arm from most dealers when I brought this up. They say, you must be crazy putting monthly payments on classified listings. Now it's more accepted. So I think the dealer body has moved a lot. At the same time, the movement to enable payment calculations on websites has moved faster than changes in the in-store experience. And there still remains a bit of a disconnect. And in some cases, often cases, a collision around what you do online and what happens in the store. Some dealers are talking about how they have unified the experience. But even those dealers who have talked about unifying the experience end up moving a customer from one tool to another. And they often, even then,
So you're saying
on a busy Saturday, we'll have wait times to get into F&I because there's a TO involved. So I think that the traditional F&I process and the waiting for it and the TOs around it, it still stands in the way of the seamless experience that many people talk about, but haven't quite yet delivered.
So you're saying people are, saying we are unifying the process, but still when you look a little closer, you realize they're still being bounced out of like one platform into another, and they've just found a way to kind of patch it up so that it works
it's getting better. It's getting better, and many dealers are trying, but the traditional sales process, the multiple steps sales process, where the salesperson is often the go-between between the desk and the customer, agreeing on price, and then going into the back office for the rest of the deal to be consummated and papered, and the waiting around that, and the stress around that there's still significant amount of friction in many dealerships that hasn't yet been addressed. So I think the industry's come a long way, but it still has a long way to go.
I like how you said the stress around that. It's almost like you think of like source issues or like surface issues and the deep issue that it actually is representing. So the waiting would be the surface issue. We don't want people to wait, but I think you just identified the deep issue is that when people are waiting, they're stressed, right? Because there's an element of the unknown that's happening while they're waiting, while the guy is in the back office. And, because what happens the second someone starts waiting, right? This guy shows up.
Right.
Right. And then who knows where we're going after that. Right.
Time wasting is not a friend of a car deal. And then the stress is around waiting, but it's also around being introduced to a new person whose obvious role is to upsell you. And many people resist being upsold. So, it's a point of sale system that has evolved over the last 30 or 40 years that clearly needs to be rethought in order for it to be more customer satisfying.
My wife and I were shopping for furniture the other week, and the furniture industry is one that reminds me of like the car industry, like 10 years ago. And it's the sense like we've become experts after like a few visits into the store. We've become experts at getting through that front door, somehow avoiding the person that's waiting with a clipboard with the line behind them so that we can actually just look for a minute, and so it's encouraging. Going through that process made me like all of a sudden understand like, oh man, it really was bad around this car industry. And sometimes some places it is, but it also reminds me like we're making a lot of progress. I would love to hear your perspective on what differences you've seen. So obviously with A2Z Sync, you're helping to bridge all of this together. And I don't want to make this podcast a commercial, but at the same time, you obviously have insights now, seeing what happens at stores when the process is seamless. And there's a result on the other side. There's an F&I result on the other side. There's probably a customer satisfaction result on the other side of a seamless process. So maybe you could just share some of those insights on what you've seen the results be when you do have a seamless process.
Sure. It starts with a dealer having a passion for creating a better customer experience and a willingness to transform at a very core basic level their sales process and reorganize it completely around one person handling the entire transaction. And that is a fundamental shift because dealers are very well grooved today in how they do business, a lot of muscle memory. Everyone comes into the store, they know exactly what to do when it's their turn. But when you center it all around one person, it requires a lot of organizational and process change. The good news is on the other side of that change are amazing results. All of our clients universally, and we don't have a big, huge customer base, and this is still a small phenomenon in our industry. I call it a movement toward a customer-centric, one-person sales model. It's just beginning today. I would say there's less than 100, maybe 200 dealers in America out of 17,000 points of light call car dealers have this, truly one-person sales process. It's a small number, but with those dealers that I've spoken with, both A to Z clients and the ones who have done it themselves, I call them the DIYers, who have over the last several years, they've grabbed the bull by the horns and worked with their existing systems and transformed how they do business. They all post three basic things. I call it the trifecta of benefit around one person selling. One is much higher customer satisfaction. The customers love it. It's time saving. It gets the deal done in an hour, often less, compared to 2 or 3 or 4 hours. It's much more transparent. They just feel like they're in control of the process. Consumers do. For salespeople, the other constituent in the car dealer is 3 big constituents. The salesperson has a much better job. They handle the whole transaction, and dealers can attract different and much higher quality people to these roles. And then thirdly, the dealership itself. The dealership itself performs better. It has more word of mouth, positive top spin in the market about the experience, the unusual positive experience. Their market share tends to grow. And because they're more efficient, the traditional F&I office has been transformed into something different. You don't have as many high-paid people in it. You have more loan processors than you do high-paid people. The high-paid people often find other jobs in the dealership, like meaning team leads and other roles, GSMs. But the bottom line of the dealership is significantly improved in this model. Now, the naysayers will say it's impossible for all these things to happen. But I've seen it now. I've visited these stores. I've talked to our clients. I've talked to other dealers around the country who have adopted a one-person sales model. So although there's a lot of work involved, there's a pot at the end of the rainbow, which is pretty significantly interesting.
It's I love, me, I love the holistic approach. When I talk about brand, I talk about the holistic benefit to your business, and it really is holistic. It's from the front of the house to the back of the house, all the way to the bottom of the P&L. It just is the case. And like in what you're explaining right now, like you can't be an idealist. You can't be accused of, I guess you could always be accused of being an idealist, but you can't be an idealist if you can point to examples where it's actually working, right? It's not pie in the sky. Like you said, you have spoken with, you have clients and the DIYers who are actually doing it and seeing this trifecta of benefits across. So, I mean, I like to always do things and promote ideas and thinking and show examples that remove excuses, because the excuses are the reasons that someone doesn't try, right? And when you're at the beginning of a movement or any movement, right, you're crazy. And then you get some early adopters, and then maybe you're not so crazy. And then all of a sudden, like you're a genius overnight.
Well, you're putting your finger on it, Paul. I mean, it's very counterintuitive for many dealers. A lot of them are skeptical that this can be done. A lot of people say my salespeople can't do this. My salespeople can't do this. They assume you need to have an S on their chest. That's not true. I think it's been said that fabulous results can be created by ordinary people when they have a really well-engineered process that's consistently applied.
That's true.
I think that's the case here. And the problem in our industry is that people can't see this future state. It's not tangible to them. they're so well grooved and so much muscle memory today around how things work now. But if you're going to take a clean sheet of paper, and if you're a man from Mars coming beep 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 into whatever town you're in, and you were going to design how to sell a car, and you followed the principles in Paul's book, the Manifesto, where he talks about wanting to build a customer first experience, no pressure, no haggle, no friction, all that. You would design a process that would have one person handle it. You wouldn't inject these multiple steps. You wouldn't inject the TOs. You wouldn't inject the multiple screens and the hiding of the screen. You'd put it all out there in front of the customer so they could see how it works. They would feel in control. One person would handle it from beginning to end, including the paperwork. And the person would walk out of the dealership saying, hey, I just felt like I got a good deal. I was well treated. I understood everything. And the old style of how I felt about buying a car and how the information was a little bit hard to grasp and was moving by me pretty quickly, and a lot of different parameters in the deal. The dealer's an expert, I'm not. I think all that tension falls away when it's done this new, modern, simplified, streamlined way. And I'm just delighted to be part of a company that's helping dealers do this. And every customer we have, every new customer, is doing this for the first time. And they're taking a leap of faith that re-engineering, overhauling their process, making it customer-centric will benefit them and their customers, not over the long term, but fairly quickly, because it has to pencil, it has to work. And fortunately, it does.
Okay, so I'm a dealer. I hear what you're saying. I'm like, this makes sense. Deep down, it's ringing true. But on the surface, I'm scared to death. I don't know where to start. I have all these people and all these places, and we worked really hard to get them there and try to make this work. But I know that I should start moving in the direction that you're explaining. I'm scared to death. What are you going to say to me?
Well, what I would say is that let's keep our eyes on the prize first. Let's get passionate about the end result. And then second, let's look at your current state and let's build a practical implementation plan that looks at the piece parts that need to be managed and changed within your store. It's not a moonshot. It's not rocket science. There's a well-established playbook on how to orchestrate these changes in a very methodical, systematic way, so that it's not like a crazy sort of disorganized effort. It can be done very systematically. And what's very important is also having enabling technology. So you need to have an implementation plan. You need to train your people, retrain and constantly train, but you have to have technology that supports it. And that's been one of the hurdles in our industry, is all the disconnected pieces of technology that float around dealerships.
Oh, yeah.
In order to do inventory search, needs assessment, first pencil, payment estimation and desking, loan application, return, loan programs, menu, and then contracting, all inside one system on one screen, so it's transparent to the customer. That requires a lot of fancy, technical footwork, and that's what's been done here before I arrived. The folks at Champ Automotive Group in Denver decided to build this thing themselves, and I'm fortunate to be able to work with a woman named Natalia Geiner, who is a former F&I director for many years, built a system from scratch. And I'd like to say that she's, the only one among the 50,000 F&I people in our industry built a software platform that eliminated her need for her job. Enabled one person to sell the car. So she's a fabulously talented person, and all that work was done before I arrived. But it really truly does work. And when we show it to clients, they say, yes, it is simple. It can be done by one person. It provides guardrails and management oversight. This is not a system where management lets go. There's lots of settings, and there's a team lead involved behind the scenes who is helping to analyze the financing aspects of the deal, and help the client advisor construct the menu before they get to that part of the process. So what the system does is make the complexity less visible. It pushes it behind the scenes, and it takes the TO out of the process. But it enables the dealer to have all the controls of all of the profit levers like they do today in a car deal, just in a more simplified, more automated way.
It's probably, the control actually is probably more scalable when you implement the technology, because you can have multiple people doing the same titled role, but now there's a control that goes across all of them. And not just, this is what I told this person, this is what I told this one, this is their personality, this is their person, all that stuff that goes on every day.
Yes, there's a lot of inconsistency and flavors of how payments and menu are presented in many dealerships, even though they talk about being about very transparent and customer centric. At the customer interface, there's a lot of variability, and our system reduces that variability and replaces it with consistency, because it's the same set of screens that get presented in the same way every time, and our system is able to help management monitor every salesperson's deal every time to know what steps they went through and how long they took. So you can't manage what you can't measure.
That's right.
So our system enables a lot of very interesting measurements that management can use for training purposes and constant continuous improvement.
Well, Chip, unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today. But what I know about you is that you've been someone who's always been accessible to dealers. If dealers have a question, or they maybe are a little pensive or want to, reach out to you around the side channel or anything like that, what's the best way to get in touch with you these days?
I've always believed in being accessible. Like you say, I want anybody to contact the top of our company anytime you want. So my email is chip@A2Z sync.com. And my cell phone is 404-277-1945. You can reach me anytime at either of those places. Happy to talk and share and collaborate with any dealer around their views of this phenomenon, this movement, their concerns, their interests, and our learnings, and how we might help them.
Well, what more can you ask for than that? Chip, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today and some of your insight and your wisdom and the offer to keep helping us into the future. You are one of the reasons that this industry has a lot of headroom to grow.
Well, Paul, thank you for the opportunity to speak to your audience. I've loved reading your book. It encapsulates all the central ideas and the passion that all of our successful clients have. So thank you for giving this wisdom to the industry.
Oh, man, it is good to be part of the movement. Truly.
You take care now.
Talk to you soon.